Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next episode of the More Magic Book Club podcast. Today is a book episode, and we are talking about A Natural History of Dragons by Marie Brennan. And this one, you highly recommended. That's why we're reading it.
Yes.
So I'm glad we finally get to talk about it because I feel like you've been mentioning it now for a while.
Yeah, I have not read this book in 6 years. I read it in 2020 during the pandemic.
Oh my
Uh
God.
yeah, I went through this phase where I would walk to the library and just kind of like relive my childhood where when I was a kid, my mom would take me to the library and I could just get as many books as I was allowed to get and then read through all of them. This was one of those books, and I remember it being a very positive, very emotional reading experience.
Mm,
Yeah.
that's nice. I can't imagine reading this. Was it during like lockdown and everything?
This was my lockdown hobby. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, would this have been a good book for those times? Probably, because it's very escapist. Yeah.
It's very escapist. Yeah. I read a lot of escapist books. Let's just say that. A lot of my I'm not here books. And like I said in the last episode, Brandon Sanderson actually started as part of my COVID reading journey. It was like, hey, what if we aren't even on planet Earth?
So for everyone listening, if you're not aware, our book episodes are full of spoilers because this is a book club. So we are going to talk about the book in detail. So just wanted to give a little bit of a warning there. And this one is cool. So just to kind of quickly summarize it. So Isabella Trent, I think is her married last name. So it starts out with her when she's little and she's obsessed with dragons and sparklings, which are these little dragons that they think are like insects, but then she's like, actually, they're not. And she just wants to see dragons and have all these adventures and has that kind of longing, which I feel like we've seen a lot in female characters in some of the recent books we've read. But so she really wants to do that, but it's kind of like almost like Bridgerton vibes, but in another world where she has to go, for the season to like get her husband, and she ends up getting a husband who supports her love of dragons, and then they go on this adventure to go research them, and yeah, a lot of things happen. So that's a very quick summary of the book. Do you have any like sort of initial thoughts to kick things off?
Yeah, I didn't know that this was the genre of book, but apparently, have you ever heard of the term light academia?
I have, but I feel like it's always for like aesthetic, like interior design. I didn't think about that as like a book genre.
Yeah, apparently it's like light academia is the inverse or the converse. I always get confused between those two. I think it's the converse. The converse of dark academia, which would be like, for example, The Incandescent, which is one of the books we read, which is like, um, you know, England or Oxford with like gloomy undertones and tweed jackets with like those elbow patches and this like a dark and gloomy vibe. Academia is more bright and optimistic. Again, very academic, which this book is definitely an academic book. It is about a woman who, at her core, is a biologist. And all she wants to do is be a biologist. And it emphasizes joy and the pursuit of knowledge. And like the colors are more like cream and beige, which I feel like really did kind of get
That's
through.
funny because that's the cover. Like,
Right. Right. And so apparently it's beyond an aesthetic. It's like there's a genre of it. And so this is that genre.
oh, that's so interesting. I didn't know that. Because I feel like dark academia is obviously darker, but kind of more like grotesque. Yeah, demons or dark magic or like you're possessed or there's, murders and things like that, which this one was, yeah, it felt more like a research field trip kind of book versus like I'm at a school and there are a lot of monsters around. Because we're not even at a school in this book. It's
No, no. And it is very like I liked how you said field trip, like
yeah.
field like literally on the field trip. And yeah, so it's one of the most well-known light academia books. Just to give you some ideas of other ones is Little Women by Louisa May Alcott.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Pride and Prejudice is on this list. This is according to Goodreads.
Yeah, it's kind of a, I guess, Victorian vibe.
Yeah, it's interesting because for me, Victorian is typically dark academia.
Oh,
Don't you think? Like it's like again like gloomy and poverty-stricken, but also cool outfits. And
Yeah.
like usually there's vampires and some kind of like you said, a grotesque creature of mythology that is like lurking in the shadows of the overcrowded alleyways and Jack the Ripper and like I don't know, I feel like I've always been a fan of Victorian England, not to live in, just to like the fantasy of it.
Yeah.
And like that's kind of what I think of when I think of Victorian England, but maybe it's because also she's wealthy in the story. So
Yeah.
there's no dark alleyways that she's walking through. She's
Hmm.
like you said, she's going to the season to to
Yeah.
find a husband, a suitable mate. Please
Yeah.
don't hate me for my exes. Sorry.
She's not even like just thinking about the setting a little bit, because they do go when they're on their research trip, they do go to like the forests and stuff, but it's never described in like a, oh, the shadows are creeping in, like this like dark kind of like predatory way, which feels like dark academia to me.
Yeah.
Like even when she's kidnapped, like there's the part where she leaves in the middle of the night, and I was just like, what are you doing? Why are you going out into the forest in the middle of the night? She made a lot of very questionable decisions in this book. But yeah, she's like going into the forest, and even then, it didn't have that creepy feel. It was just more like, why are you doing this? Like this.
Yeah, there's like no impending sense of doom where it's like bury our bones in the midnight soil.
Yeah.
You're like always on the edge of your seat. There's also,
Yeah.
funny enough, a season there too, like where
Oh yeah,
Charlotte
you're
goes for
right.
this. See, like when you think of Victorian England, you think of vampires. Perfect example. But yeah, like there's no. I agree. I'm excited to talk about her as a character because I totally agree with you though that she's a bit sheltered. She's like the kind of sheltered person who's like, yeah, I could go out at night. What's the worst that could happen?
Yeah, I feel like maybe that's what makes it light, that because she doesn't. Well, I mean, it is written when she's older, and it still doesn't have because it's her reflecting and like doing her memoir. Um, But yeah, she has this idealism to her that I think impacts the whole book, whereas in other dark academia books, there's a little more like jadedness, and I think that
Right.
also colors the actual feel of the book itself.
Right. She's obstinately optimistic.
Yeah, like dangerously.
Dangerously. It's her fatal flaw.
Yeah.
And then I
Yeah.
think we could also talk about the world. Do you want to talk about the magic, the world building a little bit, since we are talking a lot about Victorian England and the magic
Yeah.
system?
So, well, I thought it was interesting because it was different for me because it's set in another world. But then like all of the things are the same as our world except for the dragons. Like there's even reference to like opium. They were drinking brandy. The structure of the societies and the politics of the book felt just like our world in the 1800s. Uh, but there's dragons. So it was interesting for me because it's fantasy, but there's not like yeah, there's not even different trees or anything. It's like everything is the same, except for
Yeah,
the towns and then like the dragons.
right. Like there's no magic system.
Yeah.
And it's basically like in terms of world building, this is like probably it's like literally 1 degree removed from our planet, which
Hmm.
is it's our planet, but now there's dragons. How does that impact society? Oh, well, there are people who study it in the field of biology. That's what it is. One interesting thing is like dragon bones, right? That's just it's I guess something that's different in is that if a dragon dies, their bones turn to dust really quickly, right? So it's like they're
Yeah, I
hard to
thought that was
study.
interesting. Yeah. Yeah. I think there are four books in this series, so they may answer this in later in the series, but there was the Firestone, which is kind of the part of what happens at the end is that they're able to tell, I think the Tsar that the was it the Boyer? Now I can't all of the titles like I don't know these titles and I literally was reading I was like is an Earl? Where is that in the the like class structure? Like I don't know. But anyway, so the Boyer, I believe, who the dragon ends up killing at the end, he was like having this ring where yeah, he was going to turn the dragon bones into like a whole industry, but then also was mining for I think they called it Firestone. Um, and I wanted to know more about that because it's like a rare stone and it seems like it's connected to dragons because it's called Firestone, but they never say exactly what it is. So I'm curious if in the rest of the series if it says that.
Hmm.
But I was like, maybe that's where there's like more magic, like around the stone. But that
Yeah,
could just be me looking for that, you
or
know?
at least some kind of mystery that could be this can be explained by some kind of biological process or something. So the author Marie Brennan was an anthropologist, and I just want to say I'm like, oh yeah, I could see that this woman studied biological anthropology. Like she's interested in that.
Yeah, it felt like the level of detail for the scientific observations. I was like, this is someone who knows that, like has done this, like the
Yeah,
way that she
this
was
is her
talking about
field.
some of it. Yeah. Yeah, it was like you could feel that when you're reading the book. And I think it was cool having a character who is interested in that and like for the time period, the fact that she wasn't allowed to. And it's because now I was like trying to think about it compared to my life now, and it's so different. And I know that, depending on where you live, like maybe you can't go to school and, things like that. And times have changed a lot. Everything's kind of tenuous at the moment. But like thinking about that, it's like, yeah, I imagine if you were, it was just hard for me to imagine if I was like a little girl and I was like, man, I really want to study this thing. And then the world, not even my parents, but like the world was like, no, you can't learn about that, which it hasn't even been that long since
Mm,
that
No, I
happened.
think we're only like two generations removed. Like I remember my grandma got pulled out of school in like fourth or fifth grade,
Oh,
and
really?
yeah, and like I could tell that she really loved languages, and she's like, I know English, and she would like try to speak English with me, but obviously it was like fourth grade level
Oh,
English.
yeah.
So I agree. I'm like, I always think about that too. Like we ladies were the hopes and dreams of the women that come before us. And so I'm always kind of a sucker for this genre, actually, is like women who railed against the system.
Yeah.
When that being said, when I read this book, I was like, she could do that because she's wealthy
Yeah.
and her dad is a supporter. If her dad wasn't a supporter, there'd be no hope. Like she would have just had to marry some guy and like I don't know, play with dragons at night when no one's looking, like go outside in the field and play with the sparklings, but she like had a lot of awesome great privileges and luck so that she could rail against the system and be like that one woman who's able to punch through the patriarchy so that she could study dragons.
Hmm. Yeah, and I appreciate because at the end there were a few moments where she reflected on that because there was um well yeah, now we're kind of moving into the characters, but there was Tom Wilker who was the other man on the trip with them, and he came from a poor background. I never said exactly what his background was, but he was not of the same class as them, and that caused some tension between them. And then there was a line where she was just reflecting on that, like, well, I mean, it must be nice to be a man to be able to work your way up. And she's like, well, actually, I guess like a lot of like wealthy women have it easier in some cases because they're able to be closer to the conversations and maybe be a part of it. Like society might make more exceptions for you. And I thought that was an interesting, which we can talk about more in the theme. So I thought that was an interesting interplay between the two of them. And that eventually at the end, after her husband dies, she says, I need to, his dying wish was for me to move forward, to do something about this. Like I have to. And it's like she went from just her curiosity driving her to almost having this like responsibility. Like, well, I'm here. I am privileged. I'm in this position. I need to do something about it. And I really liked that kind of change. I thought it was kind of subtle, but you could like feel it at the end where she was just more, yeah, I think realizing her almost like obligation, I guess, that she has to do.
Yeah, like purpose driven now rather than just like because you're curious. Kind of
Yeah.
like what you said.
Mhm.
Controversial question for you. Do you think Jacob was too good for Isabella?
I really liked him. So yeah, in the story graph, I kept putting comments because, well, first when her dad, gave her the list of potential husbands and was like, these are all the men who will let you read their libraries and they all have a copy of this book about like the natural history of dragons. Here you go. I was like, oh,
What a good dad.
yeah, that made me so happy.
Yeah.
I like loved that. But then yeah, then when they ended up getting married and they're together and they genuinely were like really good friends and loved each other and um yeah, I was frustrated with her because She did orchestrate the entire trip, and she kept going out and getting into these dangerous situations. Like if she hadn't gone snooping in the middle of the night, he wouldn't have been stabbed. So I'm like, not that it's her responsibility, but also like
I don't know about that, Demi. Like, I don't know. Like, let's say I'm like, hey, hey, husband, let's go walk down this alleyway in Los Angeles at 3 o'clock in the morning because I see something shiny there and I think it's gonna be cool. And then some guys come, and then my husband tries to protect me and he gets stabbed. I feel like it's my fault.
yeah, or you're like swimming, but you like don't know how to swim, and you're like on a boat in the ocean, and you're like, let's like go swimming. You jump in, and then you're drowning. It's to save you, and then
Yeah.
a shark kills him. Like,
Exactly.
yeah,
Like, come, like, have some, there's some wisdom. Like, this is what I mean when I said she's, like, not street smart.
yeah.
Like, she is a woman of the library, of academia, of, like, the gardens and the courtyards. And this is really her first foray into the rugged terrain of the wildlands and, like, different cultures and being on the streets. If I was with her, I would have been like, this woman is crazy. And if I was like a maid or something, I'd be like, this woman is crazy and I don't want to be near her because
Mhm.
she's gonna get me killed as a maid. Because maids are usually a
Yeah.
bit more street smart. They know not to do stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, and
So
that's kind of what her gosh, what was her name? Dagmira, I think. The woman who was her maid and when they were
yeah,
in on the research trip, like she kind of kept saying that, like you're getting into trouble. Stop doing this, you know? And
yeah.
then she just kept doing all of the things.
Because she has like that rich person problem of being a bit arrogant.
Oh, yeah.
Big
Well, and I think like for her, I almost didn't even read it as arrogance. It was just like ignorance. Like
ignorance.
she was like, I've done all of this reading and she spoke all of these languages, but hadn't ever really interacted with the people of those cultures, it seemed like. It seemed like it was like all like kind of yeah, like you said, like book learning. And so she was like, well, I'm smart. Like I like know all of this stuff. We can go do this thing, but then just like does not know
Like
how
the
the world
culture.
works.
Like,
Yeah.
and I think Marie Brennan, being an anthropologist, does that on purpose because that's one of the first things you learn that anthropologists do wrong. Like, especially in the early field of anthropology,
Oh,
is
interesting.
they'd be like, I know everything about this culture because I read about it. But until you live in the culture and like you buy into the culture, like you become a part of that culture, you
Hmm.
really can't, like you don't know what the heck you're talking about. And that's how you get people who are have you ever read this article called Body Rituals? It's called Body Ritual Among the Nasarima.
Mm-mm.
So, it's one of my favorite anthropology like articles. Um, it's not long. It's like a couple pages long, but it's about this anthropologist who goes into this tribe to study their ways, and he's like, these people, they defecate in these porcelain bowls and they bring it to their witch
I have
doctors.
read this. Yeah.
And the witch doctors will examine the defecation for like secret rituals. And it's actually what he's actually discussing. He's talking about us Americans and like fecal samples at the hospital. But
Yeah.
like it's because the anthropologist is not actually like he's making a point, which is that the anthropologist knows nothing about like the lived experience of Americans. So he writes about it so stupidly. And so she was trying to allude to that. Like I think she did it on purpose, basically. And maybe throughout the series, maybe Isabella starts to get a little bit more wizened. I'm hoping.
Hmm. Yeah, I read a few reviews that said that the later books, they like the later books more, like they like her in the later books more. So I was like, oh, okay, maybe yeah, I'm sure she grows and evolves. Because in this one, and I think she was 19 in this one or something is how old she's supposed to be. Maybe early 20s. Like she's like very young. But also like her husband died and
Yeah.
it was really sad because he was really good. So to answer your question, do I think he was too good for her? I mean, I think that they were good for each other, that they like she it seemed like he was interested in all of these things and she kind of helped him do it. You know, would he have gone on and like done this research without her? It seems like not. Like he kind of said that, and he had the chance to go do it, and it seemed like he was enjoying it. So I'm gonna take a more like optimistic and I guess
Huh.
generous perspective on it and say that he was able to like, you know, live a different kind of life. But also, yeah, I think that he was also pretty young and he was a bit ignorant of the world too. I think
Yeah,
they both
I
were.
agree with that.
Yeah.
When I read that scene, first of all, I cried so much because I loved him so much. And for me, I was filled with nothing but regret. I was
Yeah.
like, dude, you shouldn't have gone on this trip. Like, the price was not worth the cost. Like, and I was really, that's when I got mad at her. And that's why I never actually finished the four books. Apparently, other people did not read after, like, they also didn't read the rest of the series because they were so upset. And actually, the author, I did some digging, she addresses it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think people were really upset. And the author says that she was always going to get him killed. Like from the first draft, he was always destined to die, and I was like, dang it,
Yeah,
what a shame.
probably. I feel like it kind of makes sense because she has to become, how will she ever publish things on her own or be seen as like a researcher in her own right if her husband's there? Like,
Yep, that's exactly what she said. Is like basically
yeah.
because in the Victorian times, widows had more freedom than married women, so she
Mhm.
needed to be like for the story, she needed to be a widow. That brings up the case though, is did was Jacob fridged?
I don't know what that means.
Oh, okay. Fridged is a plot device that is like usually it happens to women where the author will kill the main character's love story to move the story along. So like
Oh, okay.
for
Yeah.
example, all I can think of is Supernatural in episode one when their mom gets fridged to like start their story, like to start their journey of hunting supernatural creatures. It's usually like, and there's like no reason for the woman to die. It's just to move, like it's literally to move the story along.
Yeah, because it's like, well, I mean, everything happens to drive the plot along because it's a book. So it's like, is that inherently bad? But yeah, I feel like he could have survived, but it does make sense. Like, yeah, because he has to, if she has to be a widow, um, she has to be a widow. So
Yeah.
yeah, poor Jacob. I just wish it could have happened later, like not when they were so young, you know?
Yeah, like when they're in their 90s and they're like one last adventure or something. That would have been nice.
Yeah. Yeah, almost like, yeah, if it was like in the book too, where you're like, they already have their relationship and they have their kid, and like, yeah, anyway, now we're just rewriting it because we're like, no.
I just don't like it when like the loved one dies. I don't want that to happen.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that was hard because he was so supportive of her. He was probably my favorite character. I loved how
Same.
supportive he was, and he was so smart, and he also it seemed like he had empathy for the people in the village. Like he just seemed like a really good person.
He's a stand-up guy.
Yeah.
He was a stand-up
So,
guy. Should we talk about the themes, the major themes in this book?
yeah, I feel like we've kind of touched on some a little bit because there's definitely like the class element, like if we think
Mm-hmm.
of Isabella and then Wilker, but then also the people in the village too. And that's kind of like what's happening is like the whole like everything led to this moment where the bad guy is killing dragons and stealing stuff and doing all this stuff because he wants to become like the richest man in the world, basically. And so it's like it all kind of goes back to capitalism and
Hmm.
back to money and power and all of that. And I feel like she was also a little naive in that too. Like she kept thinking that it was like, oh, it has to maybe it's the dragons, maybe there is some mythical creature haunting us. But like at the end of the day, it was like, no, it's just like this guy who wants to control everything and have all this money and the people in the village were like just stop messing with things, you know? And I thought that was yeah, there's like some sort of interesting discussion there of like being rich and ignorant versus like yeah, everyone else like the street smart thing that you said.
We always think it's like some kind of like secret mystery, like some kind of like magical conspiracy, but really it's some dude who thinks that just a little bit more money and a little bit more power is gonna fix that hole in his heart.
Yeah. Yeah. It was interesting because they hadn't really talked about him that much. It's like that came together very quickly at the end. So I think probably because she was so focused on the dragons and like she just had no awareness of like these like larger political schemes that were at play.
Yeah, she's single-minded. Like she's a
Yeah.
biologist, but she's not like a politically shrewd woman. I also thought that it was interesting the fact that there's no magic in this book, I think is interesting.
Mm,
It's like naturalism. This book was very naturalist. And I feel like it reinforces the idea that nature is magic
yeah.
because like if we were to have dragons on this planet, we wouldn't think anything of it. Like it wouldn't be magical. Like if we were to have unicorns on this planet, it wouldn't be magical. We'd just be like, "Oh, there's unicorns." And yet we have rhinoceros. Rhinoceros? I think it's rhinoceros, right?
I have no idea. Rhinos?
Should have just stuck with the simple one. We have rhinos and we're like, "Yeah, cool." And
Yeah,
we're
you're
like
right. Yeah.
hunting them to extinction. And we have narwhals. And well, that one people think are pretty cool because that one's recently discovered too. So I think we're like, oh, this is magical. And we
Yeah.
also have Komodo dragons, which is a type of dragon. It reminds me like, oh wait, our planet is magical too. Like the
Oh, I
nature
love
is
that.
here. Like nature
Yeah.
is magical. We shouldn't forget that.
hmm I love that. Yeah, that's like a really good. I didn't even think about that, but yeah, because it's like, well, we talked about this a little bit earlier. I I was reading and I was like, okay, is there more magic? Like I wanted there to be, I wanted it to be the like ghost of the dragon man haunting them. Like I was like there for that, and but then yeah, if you take a step back and it's like, no, it's still magical, even if there's not magic in the way that we would define it as fantasy readers. Like it's, yeah, like you said, beautiful and nature is magical in itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The dragons themselves were not like these magic creatures that know that, tell you your fortune or hide treasure. They're more akin
Yeah.
to whales.
Yeah. Yeah, it did remind me of whales because when they were talking about the bones, uh it made me think of how, if whales wash on shore, like they'll explode because there's not enough buoyancy or I can't think of I am not a biologist, so I don't know the terms. But it was kind of like that for the dragons. That's how I understood like why their bones would like deteriorate.
Oh,
And
maybe you are a biologist. Because that's a great, like, that is I never put two and two together, but that's like a scientific theory. That is like a rational theoretical explanation.
Thank you. I don't know if I've ever been called rational. But yeah, that's how I was interpreting it, which it is like, yeah, if we step back and think about whales, they are crazy. Like,
They are actual magic.
yeah, it's crazy. Like how they communicate and like the fact that they're just like in the water, but they breathe air. Did you know,
Yeah.
fun fact, so there's this person in my book club. I think she is a biologist. I don't know if you're listening, Emily. Sorry, I don't know exactly what your title is, but um, she always has these like really fun natural facts anytime she comes, and we like leave learning something. So one day she was like, "Oh, seals, they'll sink to the ground and their lungs deflate. Like all of the air leaves their lungs, and that's why they're able to like sleep on the bottom of like the ocean floor because their lungs like collapse, which is like insane. Like our lungs can't do that. We would die, you know?
And yeah,
People,
lung collapse is like is a cause of death.
yeah. Isn't that like crazy? Like that's like you couldn't even make that up if you were writing a book, you know?
No. Yeah, everything in the ocean is pretty much like aliens.
Yeah. 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 But which is where I thought this was cool because they're just in the sky, it's dragons. And
Yeah.
yeah, I really like that idea of nature as magic. And yeah, in respecting it. There was definitely, I mean, for all of her arrogance and ignorance and privilege, she really respected nature and she really wanted to learn more about it and in a way protect it. I'm assuming in the later books she's probably going to do more work in that area because she's just getting started in this one. Um, but she wanted to learn more about it and had this love for it. Although then, yeah, I think it's just an interesting um, discussion for me because it's a different world. But thinking about like colonialism and imperialism and all these things, like because she is killing the sparklings and then setting them in vinegar and like collecting, I don't know, hundreds of them or something. And it's like you love something, but then you're killing it. And it makes me think of, yeah, like how people have hunted an entire species of birds have disappeared. Like I feel like
Yeah.
it's like a fine line between loving something and then like you love it too much. Yeah, it's almost like the arrogance. Like I don't even know how to like think about
Yeah.
it, but I feel like that's a theme. Yeah.
Isn't that such a Victorian thing to do though, too? Was like,
Yeah.
oh, I love this thing. Let's hunt him. Uh,
Yeah.
like for example, have you watched Tarzan, the Disney movie?
I have, but it's been a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like Jane and her dad are kind of like the different modern people who don't believe in killing gorillas, but like one of the other researchers that they're with like wants to kill him. And like, the
Oh,
bad guy.
yeah. Yeah, it's like why?
Demi, why do you think Victorians like I feel like it's like part of like our collective stories is that we were like, hey, we're interested in this thing. Let's kill it and dissect it and learn about it. And then
Mhm.
somewhere along the way we learn like, hey, killing is wrong because these creatures are alive and things that are alive shouldn't be killed because there's like, all life is sacred.
Mhm.
When did that change? Like, when did that change happen? Was it when we started killing everything to extinction and then we kind of learned our lesson that we're like
Yeah.
super connected into the world, like global ecosystem, like the life cycle of the earth and we're part of it? It might be that.
Yeah, I feel like it's like having to learn consequences. That there's definitely like in this book, I mean, they kind of are talking about it a little bit, but the idea that hey, there's not like an endless supply of dragons, you know? There's not an endless supply of anything. And I think that like reading this and thinking about the history, it's like people when you're an explorer, you're like, "Oh, there's like everything. Like it's endless, it's limitless." But actually it's not, you know. We're
Yeah.
mortal and like everything else is mortal and there's
Yeah.
an end for everything.
We're a part of this planet. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
we can't mess with the life cycle of the planet because yeah, we learned the consequences. Like that island or that country where they got rid of all of this one type of animal, so then they had to introduce this other type of animal.
Yeah, and then they just keep eating. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah. Actually, you this just made me think because one of the parts that I really loved about this book was that the dragons have their graveyard, and the theory is that they're mourning for the death of, you know, one of their own, and I think that there is a bit of a theme there of because that was shocking for them when they like discovered this, and kind of like seeing them again, it made me think of elephants. I mean, that was the comparison in the book, but thinking about like this arrogance of who we are as like who humans are and our place in the world and like kind of just like the shock that they had of like oh my gosh like they care when like you know one of them dies, you know,
Yeah.
like how could you be like we're so selfish that we don't think that any other creature cares when like one of
Yeah, like we're the only ones capable of grief. We're the only ones capable of altruism when actually elephants have so much grief. Dogs have so much grief.
yeah.
Even this is sad, but like my family dogs, they're two little like Chihuahua Russell Terriers that
Mhm.
they're like they were both nearing 20 and the
Oh my
wife,
gosh.
yeah, my brother did a really good job of keeping them alive. He treated them really well. Shout out to Obi and Nala, my two doggies from childhood. But Nala, we had to put her down because she was like past her limit.
Mhm.
And Obi, who was doing pretty well, her husband, as we call it, husband slash brother. So I called this like they were like it was like sister slash wife, brother slash husband. Like I don't know what their relationship was, but it was something along those lines. But like
Yeah.
Obi, who was doing fine, once Nala passed away, he quickly started to decline. Like he lost his will to live. And they're like,
Oh.
but like dogs have grief. Like there
Yeah.
and whales, so come not to go back to whales, but there have been so many cases of whales saving human beings and seals from sharks. So they
Oh.
are altruistic. Like they
Mhm.
have nothing to gain. They just don't like sharks. They think sharks are bullies. And so so when they
Sharks are
see
bullies.
they are like indisputably. But
Oh.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I like that this may yeah, making it's making me reflect on like our place in the world and like just like how it's so easy to just be like living our own experience and forget like, oh no, we're part of this larger ecosystem and though like everything affects everything else, which you know, but then when you read this and you take a step back and you're like, yeah, they're also mourning the loss of like creatures. They could be losing like mourning the loss of their like ecosystem or their like habitat and stuff too. And
Yeah.
yeah.
I have a friend who, to this day, if I ever bring up that picture of the polar bear on his tiny little like
Oh,
glacier,
I
he'll start
can't.
crying.
Yeah, I can't. I
Honestly, like if everyone does their part,
yeah.
that's all we could ask. I think we
Yeah.
talked about that in the last episode, is like if every single person does their part, you could see how the you might not see how your pieces are coming together, but like in a cosmic way, all of the good is coming together to fight the bad.
Hmm. Yeah, from Agnes Aubert.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
That one was perfect for that. Also, yeah, we have like this like animal theme happening right now because that had a lot of cats.
Yeah, we had some interesting themes. First, there was like a power theme that we had, and then now we're like on our animal era. Seems nice. What's our next book?
The fifth
The fifth.
season. Yeah.
Okay, probably going back to power is my guess here.
Yeah. I think it is sciencey though. So ooh, maybe we're
Ooh,
moving in that direction. Yeah.
science
Okay.
fantasy.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, do you have any predictions or yeah, final
Yeah.
thoughts on this one?
I feel like my biggest prediction is that Isabella is going to learn to not go down dark alleyways over the course of this. Like that's what I think she's going to maybe be a bit more wizened and culturally like cultured, right?
Yeah.
Because you could be educated and uncultured. And I
Hmm.
think she is working on her way to being a cultured person, which usually, in my opinion, usually happens from some form of travel or being exposed to like different ways of life and different cultures to
Hmm.
like force your mind open. So I think that is my prediction. How about you?
Yeah, I think that's a good one. I would say I agree with the second one. The first one, I don't know that she's gonna stop going into the dark alleys. I think she's just gonna become more equipped. That's my
Yeah, she's like, "Hey, there's some weird guys down there. Let me go down there, but I'll bring my machete."
yeah, exactly.
Oh,
She's like
respect. You know what? As long as you are like you're going in with eyes wide open, do what you want.
yeah.
It's fine. Go down the dark alley. It's all good.
Yeah, not like risking someone else's life for your
Right.
own like ignorance. Yeah, and
Right.
arrogance. Yeah.
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 R.I.P. Jacob. You were a
I
good
know.
man.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
we all miss you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked it. I will have to check out the rest of the books. I'm curious to see what happens.
Same.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for recommending this and for talking to me about this. I realize it's been a while since I've read a dragon book where they weren't dragon riders, so I appreciated the different type of dragons in this one. Yeah.
Yeah. Good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
I think we have a dragon episode coming up soon, so we'll be talking about all the different types of dragon books that are out there.
Yes, I am so excited for that one. Okay, well, thank you everyone for listening. Definitely let us know what you thought of this book, in the comments or, wherever you're listening to this. And we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye, everyone.